Hello, this is Fantastic Forum, and I am Queen Titania. I rule the Fae. Wait a minute, you can't tell because I don't have on my tiara. There it is. Fabulous. So, now I need minions, because I can have minions. And, who do I want? Well, I think I want Ulysses Campbell. Appear! Oh, inappropriate. Okay, well, we're going to need replacements, so I'm going to call on Ben Hatton. And I think I also want, let's add a little more color to the mix. I'll have Roberto Ortiz. Lovely. Don't say anything about Puerto Rican women. Okay. And finally, no name necessary. Jon Brooks. And there you have it. I'm magical. Hi, John.
Why is my seat wet? It's like I went down a slip and slide.
Yeah, don't worry. It's fine. I'll just fix that later. So, being that I'm magical and I have the tiara, I'm going to talk about lure.
Lure? What's the lure?
Lure is when you love something so much you can't even say it right.
You got a mouthful of marbles?
Depends on who you're with.
That's true.
But
ask my wife.
but ideally we'd like to talk about superpowered love,
Okay.
and those couples in the realm of comics that we just love to see together. So, you guys got any good calls on that?
Dr. Octopus and Aunt May, right off the bat.
That was classic.
That was good. That was a good one.
Yeah, that is the power of love.
No, Green Arrow and Black Canary, without a doubt. Like they just like you never have a relationship where they like hate each other as much, but they're always destined to be together, and now they're together, but it's still not good because she's all pissed off at him right now. It's good stuff. I love that relationship.
Okay. Superman and Lois Lane. For me, that's a classic. I like the fact that they're married, and the way they're written is that they make the concept of a relationship that works functional seem attractive.
That's
because
true.
usually the great relationships in comic books that tend to be very dysfunctional. This is one of the most functional relationships I've ever seen in comics, period.
Well, it really makes a large part of that makes the series go. If you notice, the problem with Superman Returns was that I think Bryan Singer didn't grasp the love story of Lois Lane and Superman.
Wait,
That's the only problem?
One of.
You're
There's a
saying
lot of
that,
hefting.
My God, you're saying that making Superman a stalker is a bad thing? Come on.
I mean,
But he has to have a nice relationship. Lois Lane and Superman must have a good relationship.
Yeah.
That's what, because he represents like sort of the ideal of what we can be. He's not just, super and like able to like fly around and hit meteors, but also like be this awesome husband at the same time.
Yeah.
He's like,
it's the key.
Right.
I mean, it kind of makes it work. And without that, you really don't have a Superman. Like, you can't really sustain the Superman story.
That's true.
John?
I was always partial to Ant-Man and the Wasp. That was just a
That's
lovely
messed up.
relationship.
Dysfunctional.
What? After he smacked her that one time, they got back together.
What about the bug spray?
That is ultimate, and that means it sucked.
Not the first trade.
What?
I
As a
think you're the
collective whole,
romance.
the universe.
John and I chose like really screwed up relationships. You're the romantic.
But this topic reminds me a lot of the editorial Gail Simone wrote a long time ago about
Women in refrigerators?
yes, on how relationships in comic books are used as an excuse to motivate the hero, and we tend to do horrible things to the females in the relationship.
Pretty
just
much
to
any
get-
relationship
But you know
a
what?
hero
The key
has.
to that is that those are not superpowered love stories. Those are superpowered guy, normal woman stories. We're talking about the good stuff where they're on equal footing.
Yeah, but you can look at exactly, what just happened with and not to give anything away, but like what just happened with Invincible and Adam Eve. She's always, or Atomic Eve, she's always the one, she is on, She is on
Invincible?
equal ground.
So what happened?
But she gets the crap kicked out of her because she goes to save Mark.
But he got the crap kicked out of him as well.
It's true, but you're talking about, in some ways, you always are going to, the relationship, in some ways, it is the woman who's always going to get messed up, but that happens to the woman outside of her being in a relationship. In some ways, like the will they, won't they of the comic is the same thing that of the will they, won't they of sitcoms, or the will they, won't they of the soap opera. Look at Nightwing and Barbara Gordon.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, in my mind, the classic
Will
comic
they,
book relationship of what happens to them. And when they did the Nightwing annual a couple years ago, what was it? Was that Andrea who did that?
Yeah.
And like when their first date was there, and that's the relationship that I think about when I think about like a great comic book relationship is like. Been together, they've left each other, they've gone and had other relationships, and then they come back, and like they're still there. That's love right there.
Well, that's with any sustained storytelling, though, because you have to keep escalating the romance. It has to fall apart. It has to be rebuilt. Otherwise, it ends.
Right.
Or it becomes boring, like Sue Storm and Reed Richards, and you're like, not so much.
She's like the perfect wife because she deals with his absent-mindedness.
Yeah, but it's
she's
boring.
It's like a mundane kind of relationship.
Exactly.
I mean, it's supposed to be they're the married couple. They're the ones who talk about their kids. They bring out their pictures.
But you never think of Sue Storm and Reed Richards when you think of great comic book romances. You're not
the fact that it's like always worked. I mean,
except
for that
it
Civil
hasn't.
War. Except for like the Civil War part. I mean, but when did it really fail at all?
Well, you got to think about like them not actually have. When I think of them, I don't think of them as having a relationship, though. Think of what we just said with Lois Lane and Superman. There's the relationship there because he is an attentive husband. Reed Richard, I don't think, he's like, I'm going to go sit in a ball somewhere and think about science. And she's going to be like, you're so foreign to me because I don't understand your brain.
Part of the reason the relationship with Superman and Lois Lane works for the readers at least is that Clark Kent, and actually this has been mentioned by Hal Jordan recently, and I'm talking him as a character.
By Hal Jordan.
Hal Jordan mentioned that he's stunned that he basically, Clark Kent, acting like Clark Kent, was able to score this woman and marry her. And the whole point is that there's an emotional investment from the readers that we had from a long time where Clark Kent, not Superman, had to basically go after this one. And the thing is with Reed Richards and Sue Storm, there was none of that. It's just we were presented to this married couple as
they weren't married at first.
But you're not invested in it. You never were invested in that story because you didn't feel like you kind of followed the romance.
Yes.
Where Lois Lane and Clark Kent, you did. You follow that romance. You see it grow, and maybe that's pretty interesting. That maybe that's the key to like a great romance because you do need the turmoil and the tension.
Right. I mean, I think about you look at Spider-Man and Mary Jane, right? And like. There was no build-up to their romance, though. Like, she just appeared, and then a few issues later, they were married because
she was there for a while when he was dating Gwen Stacy.
When he was great, yeah.
Yeah, but them as a couple, like the comics wanted to beat the newspaper. Like that's why they got married. You know what? Because like Stan Lee was like, I'm gonna marry them in the comic strip. And DC was like, we're going to get it done in the book first. Marvel's like, we're going to get it done in the book first. So she appears, they date, they get married. But that's still one of the deepest relationships of Marvel.
Yes, and I liked it.
Let's take this break, though. Let's take the break. And then after, we're going to figure out what makes it work. So, come back in a few minutes. We'll talk more about love.
This is your BPD Newsbrief, spoofing you up to date on the weird, wild worlds of the various super, meta, hyper-augmented, magically endowed characters that populate the pages of your favorite geeks. This is BPD, where our geek is meta. I'm Andrea McPherson.
And I'm Ulysses Campbell.
And here's what's going on.
Our top story tonight, Comedy Central's Roast of the Joker delivers laughs and casualties. Tonight, Comedy Central will premiere its Roast of the Joker, taped last week in Gotham City. The festivities were hosted by pop culture icon Mark Hamill, who opened the show by pondering why they were honoring a man who killed more people than Phil Spector. Celebrity roasters included Adam West, Harley Quinn, Batman, as well as the ubiquitous Jeffrey Ross and Carrot Top. Like all of the other Comedy Central roasts, most of the comedians took pot shots at one another and handled the guest of honor with kid gloves. Some notable exceptions, Jeffrey Ross, who said, "Seriously though, he's a bleeping psycho. The only people we know for sure he hasn't killed are Abraham Lincoln and Nicole Brown." And Patton Oswalt, who said, "He's got a rap sheet a mile long. Homicide, grand larceny, kidnapping Brad and Janet." And Batman, who said, "I've watched that lunatic fall off the face of the earth only to come back stronger than ever a few months later, just like herpes. Isn't that right, Lisa Lampanelli?" Still, the Crown Prince of Crime gave as good as he got. He said, "It was nice of my friend the Penguin to join me tonight. Oh wait, that's just Patton Oswalt. Bats and I have known each other for a long time. Well, before he joined the Village People. You look much better without the mustache, by the way. I know people give Carrot Top a hard time, but I respect him. After all, he's the only person I know who knows more about bombing than I do." The mood got a little tense after the last line when the Joker said he had a prop of his own for Carrot Top and electrocuted him with his joy buzzer, killing him instantly. The crowd sat in stunned silence for a moment, then erupted in deafening applause. Even Batman gave him a standing ovation, saying to him, "That was your one freebie." To see what happened next, tune in tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 11 p.m. Eastern Time, and any of the other 50 times Comedy Central will run it this week. Back to you, Jim. You can always visit us on the web at this address, http://buglesplanet.blogspot.com. Tune in next week for more of your BPD Newsbrief. Thanks for joining us, and have a pleasant tomorrow.
Okay, we're here today at Big Monkey Comics with author Mike Carey. Mike, so what brings you to DC?
Well, I'm basically here as part of a 10-city tour to promote my new novel, The Devil You Know, which has just been released from Warner Books, or Hachette Books as they're shortly to become. So they lined up a whole lot of appearances for me at bookshops and comic shops across the USA, going down the East Coast and then jumping across and going down the West Coast.
Okay, that's very good. So, how important is the artist in the work that you set out to do?
Totally crucial, basically. I mean, an example would be Lucifer. When we started out, I mean, the Lucifer miniseries was painted by Scott Hampton. My very first outing at DC, and I get paired up with Scott Hampton, so I can't complain. That was fantastic. And then when we started the monthly, we had Chris Weston and James Hodgkins. Again, a really powerful art team. But the chemistry between penciler and inker didn't work, and they both decided to leave the book with issue 3. And at that stage, in a book's history, when you've only just been launched, to lose the entire art team is an appallingly bad thing. It's been a potentially lethal blow, and we thought we were going to die. But as it turned out, Peter Gross was coming off of Books of Magic at exactly that time, and he picked it up with issue 5, and suddenly, we've actually found our identity. That's the point where the book comes together and we know what we're doing. Basically, finding the right artist for the right project is the difference between success and disaster. And you do write differently for different artists. You get to know an artist's nuances. You can play to their strengths. Increasingly with Peter Gross, I knew exactly how he would respond to certain kinds of things. And I was able to use a shorthand in writing for him, and I was able to set things up that I knew he'd just be able to hit out of the park.
Okay. I also noticed when I was reading your bio on Wikipedia that you used to be a high school teacher. Now, one of the things that we've been trying to do here at the stores, we've been trying to figure out ways to get younger people to actually read comics.
Right.
How do you go about doing something like that?
That's a tough one. I think partly it's a problem with the way the industry is now organized. When I was growing up, comics were distributed overwhelmingly through newsstands. You'd go into a newsagent's shop, and there would be a spinner rack of comics. In the UK, there would be American comics, but you'd never know from one month to the next which comics were going to come in. You'd just take whatever was there. You know, you might get the first part of a Daredevil story, and they'd never get the second part of the story in. So you were eclectic. You just picked up whatever you could, and it was a great introduction to the medium. So I grew up loving all kinds of comics, you know, superheroes, but also westerns, horror, everything that was out there. I would buy and read absolutely voraciously. But with the 80s, with the late 80s, you begin to get that kind of distribution through the direct market. And I'm aware that you're working in that market. But the problem is that the people who come into comic shops tend to be people who already know what they're looking for.
Right.
So where's the entry point?
Right.
I think DC and Marvel are both addressing it to some extent because they're now doing deals with people like Walmart to try and get comic books available in their stores. Obviously, part of the idea with Minx is to appeal to a teenaged demographic, which the manga phenomenon has proved is out there. Beyond that, I don't know. I don't know what you do. Beyond
Hi, it's Ulysses Campbell here with another edition of the Fantastic Four Mailbag. Today's letter comes from Chris Callaghan of Northampton, Massachusetts, who's been watching the show online. Thanks, Chris. I really enjoy your show. The discussions are interesting and thought-provoking. I'm a big comic and science fiction fan, but I was wondering about something. You don't ever read letters or comments from viewers. I attend conventions and enjoy costuming and prop making. I've enclosed a photo of me and my friend as Superman and Batman from a convention I attended in New York. Will you show this photo on the air? Thanks, and keep doing what you're doing. Well, Chris, we have tried to start putting some letters out here, and we will be more than happy to show your photo, and here it is. So, thanks very much for watching. You keep costuming, and tell all your friends.
We're back, and apparently my powers aren't working because there's no silk robes, there's no candles, there's no cognac. I'm sorry. But, you know, we still want to talk a lot about love, so let's jump back into it. Why is it that we're invested in Peter Parker and Mary Jane, and we're not in Reed and Sue?
Because the way Peter Parker and Mary Jane, they present two personalities that are highly contrasting, that there seems to be an ongoing effort between the two personalities to make the marriage work.
Right.
The same with Superman and Lois Lane,
Right.
that there's an acknowledgement that the two personalities are contrasting, highly independent, both of them, and there seems to be an effort to make them work. And I think that has to do with the fact that the creators of this are guys who are in their 30s and in their 40s. They're experiencing that, they're experiencing marriage firsthand, and they can project a lot of that insecurity and frustration of marriage in what they're writing.
Right.
You know, and that's true because with Spawn, when you're watching him watch Wanda with his best friend, there's kind of this, and that happens in real life a lot.
You
You
start
know,
stalking your ex-wife?
yeah, yeah. I stalk my ex-wife, and so there's but seriously, watching someone you know with the former love of your life happens so often. I mean, I have two friends whose fathers are now married to their mother's former best friends.
Nice.
Yeah. So you know that. So it felt real watching Spawn go through that.
Right.
You
I think part of what makes love in comic books work, though, is that sort of idea that it allows for stories to be told as opposed to just being there. And until Civil War, the marriage of Reed Richards and Sue Storm, that wasn't a story. Like,
Right.
they just have kids. And then, like, it's Franklin Richards, who's the result of their love, that makes many more interesting stories than, like, anything
The
else.
love itself.
The love itself.
Because
Whereas,
it's static.
But
Right.
it's not the Fantastic Four was always supposed to be a family
Right.
already presented to you, not showing them getting closer
But think of
because they were
what.
already together.
But that's why
They
we
were
don't
always
care.
supposed to be shown as together.
But the thing is, has nothing to do with the fact it's being a family or not. Think of Wally West.
Yeah.
How much in love he is with his wife, and how Wally West basically started growing up as a character once he realized that he was in love with his wife, and I always forget her name.
Linda.
Linda Park.
Yeah.
And the fact that he became a family man like Reed Richards still makes the romance he has compelling, because the thing that grounds Wally West, and he has acknowledged this in the book, is
Right.
his wife and his kids.
Yeah, but that's the way with the Flashes. And I mean, same thing with Iris and Joan. Like, I mean, what's interesting though is you don't see a lot of new love develop in comic books. You
Well,
know,
I was
Or
going
they
to
just
bring
handed
that
to you,
up.
like Iron Man and Liberty Bell.
or Shatterstar and Richter.
Well, here's one that I like, but it kind of doesn't apply. That just sounds dirty.
Jimmy Madrox said a 14-year-old.
That's right. You're gonna get married someday.
But the one that now nothing. I had a Twilight flash. I'm sorry. Yuck. But one that I really loved, which doesn't quite qualify, was Hitman Tommy Monahan and Teagle. Because there was so much turmoil in that relationship as it developed. And in the end, I don't think this is a spoiler because, you should have read it. But in the end, he sends her away. He gives her all his money. He knows that the life he led can come to no good in the end. He gives her everything he's got. He says, go somewhere and start a new life. I mean, I thought that was genius. That's still one of my favorite all-time comic book love stories.
How about Why the Last Man, where
Yeah.
he realizes at the end, if you haven't read Why the Last Man,
Don't spoil it.
oh man,
It's
That is
all
what-
about love and the search for love, folks.
and
Yeah.
then he basically finds out what an incredible tool he has been
Yeah.
at the last moment.
Right.
And then I want to say, but
It's a good
Read
love.
it.
yeah,
It's
you
really
should
good.
absolutely
We're gonna be
read it.
called
That's
the
a
spoiler
great
for him
story
in a
of love.
second.
Preacher is a perfect example also about love, because
Yeah.
the whole point of the book is basically the relationship he has, and I always forget the name of his love interest.
What's her face?
Well, I can't remember her name either.
But the thing,
Tallulah, right? Tallulah.
Doesn't
Even though
matter.
what
Just
he
tell
was
the story.
searching for
Because
in
they're-
Australia.
the point
Oh,
of
Tulip, right.
the point of Preacher is basically is that no wonder you have characters that are called ass-face, for crying out loud. The universe basically gets really
Arse.
weird, arse-face. But it always went back to the relationship that they had, and that's what grounded the storyline. That you can tell a really outrageous tale as long as you have something that's relatable, and that's what love comes in. That's something that people can see and say, okay, I understand that.
Right.
And Garth Ennis does that really well. I mean, Preacher, Hitman, and even in The Boys,
Yeah.
what he's doing with
For being one of the more screwed up comics out there, like dirtiest comics. I remember one time, like right after a real first started, I turned to Devon and I was like, I think this might be one of the comics with the most heart in it.
Yeah.
Because like it's really about like a bunch of really screwed up, gross people, and sort of the people who want to stop them, and they're also going to do whatever it needs. And then Huey just develops this love, and it's just like sort of like West Side Story. It sort of makes me cry a little.
You're McClem.
We can reenact it. Okay, let's get the action figures.
When you're a child.
Why do I have no clothes on?
So if we don't have a whole lot of time yet, but I think we can kind of briefly touch on some other great love stories, because there are some other great ones, but we can't delve
Like
too deeply.
Mr. Terrific and Sasha Bordeaux
That
from
was going to be
Checkmate.
mine.
That was awesome.
Was it?
Hawkman and Hawkgirl.
Yeah.
That's
And Red
Or
Arrow.
inversely,
Red Arrow, ugh.
Hawkman and Green Arrow.
Actually,
That was not a great love
Hawkman and
story.
Green Arrow. I'm sorry, Hawkgirl and Green.
How about
Green Lantern?
How about
Wow.
from GLU, The Question and The Huntress?
I was thinking Question and Huntress, and also
A
Question
lot
and
of angry
Batwoman.
sex in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Faceless angry sex.
Faceless Asians and what?
Angry sex.
Oh, angry, which is different.
Sex is
Yes, it is.
less kind of
Yeehaw.
less disturbing.
But let me clear, Shira and Jon Stewart, also
Yeah.
a good love story.
And with Vixen in there. I mean,
Yeah.
it works. The reason that love works or anything works in comics is when you take, when it doesn't become based on the powers. Anytime you feel like something is being forced on you, or is just the purpose is to just like mess with you, like Jade's death as opposed to Kyle Rayner's first girlfriend who winds up in the fridge.
So what is her name?
Fridge lady.
Fridge lady. Gail
Like the thing
Simone
is,
knows.
like her death defined Kyle Rayner.
True.
Like defined her, like like really shaped him as a character. Jade dying in the middle of Infinite Crisis for me was just like meh. And then Alex, right? That was Kyle Rayner's original girlfriend. And then and now Jeff Johns is trying to make it really about Jade and Kyle's love of Jade, and that doesn't work for me as a story beat.
Right.
Because Alex coming back, that's a story beat. That's love there. That's sadness.
So it's basically what we're saying is you have to kind of build the love story, and it can't be like a punctuation. It has to be built into the story, and it has to kind of grow
be
over
honest.
If it
time.
wants to be a great love story.
And the
If it's
writers
gonna
need
be
to
right.
start dating more to basically get what we're talking
And
about.
writers need to start dating more, and I think I can't wrap it up any better than that. Apparently, Roberto has once again called out the problems of the world. So that has been our show on love or superpowered love, and I think we're not done yet, so I think we better give it a second go. But this has been Fantastic Forum. Hope you'll come back and see us again. I'm Sherin Nicole. This has been Hatton. That's Roberto Ortiz. And that is No Name Necessary, the GD Jon Brooks. Thank you for coming out. Peace. Good night.